Hi everyone, today we'll be looking at the day 1 of Unit 4 notes, and today we'll be talking about slope. Slope is a measure of the difference in position between 2 points on a line. There's a few different ways we can represent slope. We often see slope represented as the variable m. We can also look at it as being the change in y over the change in x. That triangle, that delta, means the change in. Right. And then we can also see it as rise over run. Right. We also have one other way that we show the slope, and it's with a formula. Right. So our slope is equal to the second y value minus the first y value over the second x value minus the first x value. All right. Then today we're also going to talk about parallel lines, which are two lines with the same slope but different y-intercepts. And when we talk about parallel slopes, we use this symbol. These two lines that look like parallel lines, and then slope. Perpendicular lines are two lines with negative reciprocal slopes. It means we need to switch the sign and then flip the fraction. So I always like to say switch and flip. All right, so the symbol that we use to represent perpendicular slopes looks like this. All right, our types of slopes. We have a positive slope when it goes up and to the right, negative slope when it goes down and to the right, a zero slope when it's a horizontal line, and when we have a vertical line, we call that an undefined slope. We have slope dude here, which can help us remember our slopes. So if we remember our positive slope goes up and to the right, a line that goes down and to the right is a negative slope. A vertical line is an undefined slope, and a horizontal line has a slope of 0. So there's our slope dude. That little image can help you remember what each of those slopes are. All right, let's go to the next page. All right, when we want to find slope from a graph, we start by picking 2 points from the line. Then we're going to count the vertical distance between the points. This is our rise. So 2 things to remember is if we're going up, our rise is positive. If we're going down, our rise is negative. Then we count the horizontal distance between the points. This is our run. If we're going right, our run is positive. If we're going left, our run is negative. Finally, we put the rise over run, and we get slope. We always do want to make sure that that is in simplest form. All right, so let's take a look here and find the slope of this graph. First thing you want to do is find good points. Good points are everywhere that the line, the graphed line intersects with both grid points, both the vertical and horizontal grid point. So here's all my good points, and we'll say the line was not graphed perfectly, so we're trying to get this as good as possible. Right? And then to do our slope, we're going to find our rise over run. I usually take 2 points and draw a triangle between them. So in this case, I did it between these 2 points here. So my rise to get from here up to here was 1. My run is also 1. So if I were to put that as a fraction, 1 over 1, that would be my slope. And I would simplify that. So 1 over 1 gives us 1. Right? The slope of a parallel line, remember, is always the same. So if the slope of this line is 1, then the slope of a parallel line is also 1. Now, the slope of a perpendicular line is where we have to take the reciprocal and the change its sign. So right now, this is positive 1 over 1. Well, the reciprocal means I'm going to switch the order. So my top moves to the bottom, my bottom moves to the top, and then I change the sign. So it's the negative reciprocal. So instead of a positive 1 over 1, it becomes a negative 1 over 1. All right, let's take a look at this one here. So we're going to start looking for good points. I'm going to find where I put them. There we go. So again, this line is off just by a little bit. So these are where the good points look like they should have been. And then I'm going to draw in my triangle. I always draw my triangle going from left to right. So this line is going up and to the right, my slope is positive. This one's going down and to the right. So I picked these 2 points here. Then I always read from left to right. So I'm going down 2, which is a -2, and then over 3. So when I want to do my slope, I'm going to take my rise, and I'm going to put it over my run. And then I always want to make sure that that is in simplest form. So -2 over 3, make sure that's in simplest form, put it there, and then we have our slope. Our parallel slope is going to be the exact same. Parallel lines have the same slope. Right. Perpendicular slopes mean that I'm going to switch and flip. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to take out the negative because I'm going to switch my sign, and then I'm going to flip. So instead of the 2 being on top, now my 2 is on the bottom. Instead of the 3 being on top, now my 3 are on the bottom, now my 3 is on top. So now my perpendicular slope is 3 over 2. I want you to come down here, and I want you to try these two on your own. They've already given you points. So go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, let's go to the next page. And now we're going to look at slope-intercept form. Right? That's y equals mx plus b, where m is your slope. So we're trying to get equations in this form, and then we can identify the slope. The slope is always the coefficient of x. Right, so when I come down here, I need to solve for y. So I'm trying to do solve for y. So I'm going to draw my line through the equal sign, and to solve for y, I need to move the 3x over. I'm going to subtract 3 from x from here, and I'm going to subtract 3x from here. Now I can't actually subtract these, so when I write it down, I'm going to cancel these out, and then my negative y comes down, and then I put my x term first. So negative 3x plus 16. I cannot actually combine those together. Now, in order to get rid of that negative 1 that's sitting in front of the y, I divide every single term by negative 1. And then I can simplify. So this one here cancels out those negatives, and then I'm left with y equals 3x minus 16. Negative 3 divided by negative 1 is a positive 3. Positive 16 divided by negative 1 is a negative 16. All right, now that we have it in slope-intercept form, we can identify the slope. So the slope, remember, is the coefficient of x. In this case, 3. Not 3x, but just 3. Wrong one. So my slope, there it is 3. The parallel slope is also 3. And then they want us to identify the parallel and perpendicular slope. So then our perpendicular slope, remember, is going to be the negative reciprocal. I can look at this as being 3 over 1. So when I flip that, it becomes 1 over 3. And then I need to change my sign. So instead of a positive, it becomes negative. So negative 1/3. Hi, I want you to try this next one here on your own. Go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, let's go ahead and find the slope when we're given 2 points. Right, we do have a formula, and this is our formula. It's our second y value minus the first y value over the second x value minus the first x value. So what I like to do first is go ahead and label my points. So here's my first ordered pair. The negative 1 is my x value from the first ordered pair, so I label him x1. The 4 is my y value in the first ordered pair, so I label that as y1. 6 is my x value from the second ordered pair, so I label that as x2. 3 is my y value from the second ordered pair, so I label that as y2. Now I can go ahead and put them into my formula. Right, so my m is going to equal my y2 minus my y1. So 3 minus 4. My bottom is going to be my x2 minus my x1. So that becomes 6 minus negative 1. At this point, you can put this whole problem straight into your calculator. And when we do, we get negative 1/7 as the slope. So my slope is negative 1/7. The slope of a parallel line would also be negative 1/7. The perpendicular slope, we have to switch and flip. Switch from a negative to a positive and flip 1/7 to 7/1, which is just positive 7. Okay? Now I want you to try this one on your own. Go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, and that concludes our notes for today. At this point, you can go through, make sure you've completed all your try on your own, and I will see you next class.